Ben 10 came out in the 2010s when I wasn't watching cartoons, not because I grew up since I was watching a ton of anime, but because everything felt simple or lacked the violence and naughtiness of your typical anime. I didn't even bother with Avatar, which is the best cartoon of that decade, because it looked very kid-friendly. I otherwise understand the appeal of the show. If you watched it as a kid with not much exposure to the thousands of shows I had watched up to that point, it would definitely feel amazing. A kid around your age finding an alien device that transforms him into all sorts of aliens that have cool powers, and he gets to fight all these superhumans and aliens. It's basic but works for the intended audience. The thing is, I am evaluating it as a 40-year-old man who has watched almost everything, and as such I found it to be very simple. Just compare it to Avatar that came out around the same time. Ben 10 cannot even exist in the same stratosphere as that cartoon. Comparisons aside, how does it stand out as a show by itself? Well, the protagonist is a perfect self-insert power fantasy, where a typically mature boy gets superpowers and has lots of cool adventures. And I am sure you will love to hate his cousin because she never stops complaining. My god, it's like she has a stick up her ass 24/7! She exists to mark everything Ben says or does, and as much as I would see how she's the anti-escapism part of the show, they wrote her as what most boys think of girls at that age. They are stupid and ruin all the fun. Also, if you're a pervert, she can also be seen as a waifu bait, since she's a low-key tsundere for ordinary creeps. The third major character is their grandpa, who aside from being the voice of reason and maturity, he's also the driver. Because they are on vacation and have a car and they can't drive because their feet can't even reach the brakes yet, I like the grandpa. He's so calm, polite, and has a lot of life lessons to give those brats. My only issue with him is how he continues their vacation despite almost losing his life and a lot of property getting damaged in every episode. How can he be so complacent about all that? That alien device is a calamity used by an immature kid and trashes every place they visit. He should have called the FBI since the pilot episode. Anyways, it's a kid show, so it's bound to overlook such things. What cannot be overlooked is the absence of a support cast. Aside from the three of them, there is nobody else doing something for more than a single episode. Not even the main villain who wants to take back the alien device has much of a presence. And it's very hard to add a support cast in general, when the protagonist has 10 different powers to choose from. Not even Deku has so many powers, and he's still making everyone else useless, because he's bound to have a power that works in every occasion, and therefore he doesn't need help from any other superhumans. It can get tiresome fast, especially if you marathon the show like I do. Another thing that cannot be overlooked is how the backgrounds have this gradient overlay that makes them look dusty or murky. It's a stylistic choice for making the setting to look more gritty or dangerous, but because the foreground doesn't have the same gradient, it sticks out a lot from the foreground, and that is kinda off-putting. Another off-putting thing about the setting is that it's full of supernatural creatures. You're not given that impression in the beginning of the show. You assume it's like our mundane world, and yet they can't drive for more than a few miles before they bump onto a monster or a superhuman. Watching this as a kid you will find it to be cool, but watching it as an adult you will be constantly wondering, how do people survive in this setting? Where are the superheroes to protect them from these monsters that exist in every town? Or why isn't the army on patrol all the time when every town has a superhuman criminal? The world should be looking and functioning differently. You would most definitely not go on vacation when you encounter a monster every few miles, and yet here we are with our characters casually driving all over the country. Gravity Falls had something supernatural happening all the time, but since everything was limited at a small area that was full of weirdness, you could accept it easier. Ben 10 doesn't do that and takes you out of the experience. And that is all I got so far. If something changes in later seasons, I will do a follow-up video, but for now the show is like a 5 out of 10.